Hey everybody, welcome to In the Woods podcast. My name is Pete, here with Sarah.
Hello.
And we are kicking off the first podcast of 2026.
Happy New Year. How are your resolutions going?
So let's start there. So you and I were just talking a second ago, and we'll get into it in a bit. The power of words.
Yep.
I find it interesting that we use the word resolution to speak of New Year's resolutions.
Yes.
Because nothing could be less resolute
We're
than
so
the
resolute.
things that we decide to do at New Year's Eve.
To go to Planet Fitness every day.
Like the very word resolute means I am steadfast in going to do this.
Right.
And yeah, every year is like, what's your New Year's resolution? Well, I might end up doing this. I'd like to. Those are not resolutions. They don't become resolutions until you're actually doing it and showing that you are resolute.
Yeah.
And that's my soapbox to get us started.
Yeah, that should be a great resolution. Let's start using our words properly.
Yeah.
Let's give them the reverence they are owed.
So, not to just like throw that out there, there's sort of a connection to it. And the connection is, on Sunday, we talked about the idea of hope. Mm-hmm. And both campuses, Lane Gordon was at Marshall and I was at Battle Creek. Both of us kind of gave the same message. We used the New Year's song, Auld Lang Syne, to kind of talk about the difference between always thinking, you know, the past is going to be better versus having hope for the future in a positive way. And one of the big ideas that resonated for me and what I was trying to say was really just, before we get into too much theology, let's just make sure we understand what the word hope means.
Define our terms.
Right. And because when someone says, what's your New Year's resolution? It's to, work out or run 5 miles every day for the next year. That's not a resolution. That's a wish.
Yeah.
That's something you're just kind of, but one of the main ideas I made was in biblical Greek, the language of the New Testament, the word hope, elpis, means something more like a resolution, more like, no, this is happening. I expect this to happen. Not like, I'd like to. But over the course of time, our way of using language, the same way that we now call just a random hope or wish that you might work out more, a resolution that's not to be resolute. We use the word hope in the same way. I hope to work out more. Well, wait, are you actually planning on doing it? Not really. Well, then that's not the word hope. And so that was really the concept of it, where we kind of landed. And so it was, I don't know, it's just an interesting way, I think, to kick off and start talking about the new year. So anyway, how was your Christmas?
My Christmas was honestly really great. Yeah, we have a very easy family dynamic. So like my husband's family, my family, we all just get together for the whole thing. So
what do you mean the whole thing?
For Christmas.
Like a day?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a week? Oh, okay.
No, right. Not for the whole week. That would probably ruin the beautiful dynamic. But yeah, we do Christmas Eve kind of as like on my side of the family. So my sister came in town. We had a great little Christmas Eve night, and then Christmas Day went over to Thane's parents, and just had a nice day together. So cool. Yeah, right. Easy, simple, joyous. It was really nice.
Was it joyous?
It actually was.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Great.
We had a great time.
When you were growing up, did your parents do Santa Claus when you were little?
Nope.
No Santa Claus. Was it because they didn't want to, or they thought it was wrong to lie to your children?
I just never bought it.
So you're like, get out of here with that nonsense.
Well, like my grandma would take me to the mall. There was always Santa at the mall, and she's like, do you want to go see Santa? And I said, I don't want to sit on a man in a costume's lap. So I said, that's a man in a costume, Grandma. So no, I don't want to go sit on him. So they never pushed it.
You must have just been a bundle of joy
as a
child.
I tried. Honestly, there were a few years in my childhood that I really tried to believe it, Yeah. And I just couldn't get there.
I didn't either. I never believed in Santa Claus.
Couldn't do it.
I would say, I think that my dad was probably averse to perpetuating lies to kids, but also anything that got in the way of Jesus was always a problem, which I respect. But honestly, it wouldn't have mattered. I remember being a little kid just thinking to myself, what universe do we live in that one man could go and deliver presents? That's stupid. Being a little kid thinking that way. So it never would have worked on them anyway. But, every other thing. But
Sure.
We didn't do Santa Claus for our kids either. For me, it was probably more... I remember thinking right early on when we first had our oldest, Kira, and it was almost like a conversation of like, do we do Santa? The first thought I had was, if I raise my kids telling them this thing is true, and then one day they're like, wait, you were lying the whole time, what other things are they going to think I was lying about?
Right.
And I didn't want to start parenthood off by deceiving my children, even though it's kind of fun and cute. It just didn't want to do it. But I was thinking like the connection, and there is kind of one, I guess, for me, is like when we talk about words like hope and we connect it to words like faith and all these kinds of things, behind them is all this idea of what you believe is true. What you're like, the word expectant is right there in the definition of hope. And what you expect is based on what you think is true and what's in your brain. And so like, even when I think of like someone asking me like, did I have a good Christmas? If you ask me if I enjoy anything, my answer is always going to be relative to what I expected it to be. Like, did I enjoy the McDonald's hamburger? Yeah, it was okay. I was expecting a McDonald's hamburger. So what I'm expecting is always sort of relative. And so what I think is true, is this going to be good? Is this not going to be good? And I say that because one of the interesting things about hope as a concept is a common question that people will ask another person is, are you a glass half full or a glass half empty person? And in a sense, you really can, categories are always scary. You really can kind of categorize people that way. Most people tend to fall in a category of optimist or pessimist. What I find interesting though is this, and this is, we can get into this more if you want, but like, I think the concept of hope has nothing to do with whether you're a pessimist or optimist. I actually think the concept of optimism versus pessimism tends to be more about how critical you are about the world and how much you pay attention to things that could go wrong. And I say that because optimists are hopeful. I would say, well, hope is the response of thinking in your head that things are going to be good, right? Like that's what hope is. In your brain, you think something is going to go well. Well, you think it's going to go well because you have a reason in your brain to think it's going to go well, right? If you don't have a reason to think it's going well, you're not hopeful, you're delusional.
Right.
So what's difficult is, well, you're a pessimist or you're a cynic versus you're an optimist. It's not necessarily that one is hopeful and one isn't, just generically speaking. It's that one is probably finding more reasons to think something will go well versus the other. And I wanted to start there because you and I got to know each other a little bit for these 7 months or so. One thing that you and I have in common outside of both of our sunny, cheery dispositions is our extreme optimism and belief in the goodness of all things and how everything will be good tomorrow. We're basically like almost like siblings in that way of how optimistic we are about all things. And that's complete sarcasm. Yeah.
We are rain clouds that make things grow.
I like that.
Right?
If it doesn't rain, nothing grows.
We have a purpose too.
Okay. So let's start there. Would you like, I don't know, maybe I'll just kind of throw this out there and let you describe it however you want. I'm not trying to read into you, but I mean, we're similar in some ways. You, like me, I think, are a person who tends to be able to quickly find things that maybe aren't as rosy or sunny, or maybe see sides that more optimistic people don't see. And as a person who has sort of been on that journey your whole life, how have you navigated that? How have you wrestled with it in your own life, in your own heart? How have you taken it and tried to compare it to what Jesus is asking of you? Just what's the journey been like for you, for someone that leans more towards the glass half empty side as a person sometimes?
Well, it has been a real journey, because I think a lot of it is rooted in it's a defense mechanism for me to be more on the pessimistic side.
So you don't feel disappointed?
Well, so I don't feel disappointed. I also, if I can identify the pieces that are wrong, for some reason, that's the most real to me. Like the problems are the most authentic thing. And if we're just trying to smooth everything over, then that's reckless. Or I don't know. I've had those thoughts before. It's trying to anticipate harm, or I don't know. It's self-protection. So part of it's been that. Another aspect, and I think we share this as well, like I don't naturally just get super excited about things to begin with. I don't know, like I see through the marketing of things a lot. So if it's, this one's controversial, but like Disney World, for example, like I am not someone who can just go like, oh my goodness, I love the princesses and I love the characters. Like I've always been really fascinated by the underbelly of things. And so I see the underbelly of things. And so I'm like, okay, so we're in a gated area that is charging us and using our nostalgia and, our dopamine receptors to get money from us, But on the other side of things, like, I also know that enjoyment is not a sin. I don't know. It's so hard for me because I see it and it's genuine. Like I'm not just trying to be a Debbie Downer. Things just don't excite me like they excite other people. But then I also have my own things that excite me that maybe don't excite them. Yeah. So I think like I can tend to be more of a pessimist about just the more commercial stuff.
Sure. Anything that might feel fake or...
Yeah, just the things that feel fake or that I know are businesses or that... And not that I don't think that business is bad at all. It just doesn't excite me as like, oh, like Disney's here to make us happy, like they are, but like it doesn't do that for me because I see the business side of it, which fascinates me, but it doesn't like recharge me and give me magical feelings. Yeah. So I think just different things do that for me. And I probably come across as a pessimist because maybe the vast majority of the population gets pumped up by some of those things that I don't get pumped up by. Sure. I don't know if that makes sense, but how have I dealt with it? Knowing that about myself, like you said, like, okay, what does Scripture say? Love other people. Be present. He didn't call us to find the problems in everything, right? So what does it look like to love others? And to love others, you often have to go into their world with an open mind and an open heart and, learn to enjoy things that other people enjoy. Be present enough to like see other people's needs, which involves being in spaces that maybe I don't want to be in. Like if I was just, okay, what does Sarah like? Sarah likes to be on the couch reading or watching documentaries, right? So I have found that, it does take a little bit of extra work to push past the things that are, maybe the places that fill my cup. Sure. Right? And then going into those other spaces to learn how to love other people, experience what makes other people feel like the glass is half full. I don't know if that all makes sense.
I think that's important. I would say, like,
describe it.
So where I would relate to that is I've found a couple things about just trying to understand why my brain works the way it does and what I can do about it over the years. One thing, especially having married this like rosy, optimistic person that I married. One of the things that helped just being married to her, I started to really understand about myself is when I look at things like you, I break them down and I see anything that might need to be fixed or could be a danger or could lead to like failure. Like, well, if that happened, that would go wrong. And I don't want things to go wrong. I don't want things to break or whatever. I don't want to, if I'm in a game, I don't want to lose. So like if I'm playing chess or something like that, I'm thinking about all the things that could go wrong in order to maneuver in the right spaces. Yeah. So my brain just does that. Clifton Strength Finders calls it a strategic strength. Like it's where my brain's wired. The dark side of it is because I'm always seeing the negative things, I can quickly draw conclusions that, oh, this isn't going to work. Like I've seen all the negatives. That's not a good decision. Don't do that. And when you're with other people who are like, well, we just want to take a shot at this, like, can you be optimistic about it? That's where I often get in trouble, is because, and this is where it comes in the conversation of hope. I have hope when my brain looks at a situation and says, oh no, that's likely to work. Yeah, let's do that. And when I have hope, let's go. Yeah, well, of course. When I don't have hope, it's because I've examined the situation. I've looked at all the critical things. So that's probably not going to work. We shouldn't do that. If you want to do that, go ahead, but you're rolling the dice and it probably won't work. Sometimes it does, but I'm telling you, what's really challenging for me, and this is a very arrogant thing to say, but it's just kind of true, because my brain does that, I'm right more than I'm wrong. Like when I assess a situation and I'm like, that's not going to work, it usually doesn't work. And what's difficult about that is some of the greatest successes in the world have happened through people who took a chance on something that probably wouldn't work. And people like me are like, don't do that. But they just rolled the dice anyway and they were successful. So as a more critical person, I definitely play things safer. I would say I make less mistakes, but I don't have as many like big wins, Right. I'm never the guy that's gonna, start a Fortune 500 company from some brilliant idea. But I'm also never the guy that's gonna go bankrupt on stupid decisions. So the way that I'm wired is somewhere in the middle of that. But I say all of that because, and this is really the point of even what I talked about from the stage yesterday, I think it's important that you take that entire conversation about human wiring, how we think, whether we're critical, whether we focus on problems or focus on solutions, all those kinds of things, and you just sort of push them to the side a little bit and say, hey, all of that is great conversation. That's not what we're talking about when the Bible talks about hope.
Correct.
There's nothing in the scriptures that says, hey, be a happy, optimistic person for no reason. That's not the message of the Bible. When Paul in Romans says, may the God of hope fill you with joy and peace as you overflow with hope, as you trust in him and overflow in hope, he's not saying, may the Holy Spirit come like a fairy and douse you with hope dust. Oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
He's saying, no. May you, as you look at God, as your brain, even if it's a Pete brain that wants to take everything apart, go ahead, take it all apart. Dissect the entire thing. Look for every single loophole and every problem. And Paul's like, when you do, you're going to find it's foolproof and you can trust God and you're going to have hope.
Yep.
And I found that. Like I can take everything apart. I can destroy everything. I can find out. And I've done it to the Bible. I've spent 25 years sometimes picking it apart. And is this actually trustworthy? I've held God's feet to the fire at times. Are you going to come through? You going to come through this time? And he always does. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I am not a naturally what we would call optimistic person in general, but that has nothing to do with whether I can have hope that God is going to do what he says he's going to do, because my brain that is constantly looking for evidence sees it. Right? Yeah. It's living because I see Jesus living. And so I just think it's good because it's a cop-out for a more pessimistic person to say, oh, that hope stuff is for optimists.
Correct.
I know the Bible tells me to have hope, but I'm just not a positive person. Like, look, we can talk about that differently. I did a whole message on that with the Stay on Target series. Right now, we're talking about whether or not God is trustworthy.
Right.
And if you're struggling to figure out whether God is trustworthy, that has nothing to do with whether you're a natural optimistic or pessimistic person. That's a completely different issue. We need to talk about what it means to actually trust God, to be a person of faith. Faith is completely, and it's not a respecter of whether you're an optimist or pessimist. It's something that all human beings are called to. And hope is the overflow of it when it really is in our hearts. And so I kind of wanted to go there because I didn't want to give anyone a cop-out, including myself.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hope's not for me. No, hope is for you, Pete. What he's talking about is for you, even when your brain wants to find the negative things. So yeah, that's kind of where I was really trying to aim at. And it's like, it's easy to preach at optimists about be happy and have hope. They're already there, you know. Sometimes it's need a reminder. But speaking to the other half, they're like, oh, I don't know. It's like, no, wait, this is for us too, guys. And so it's kind of where I was trying to go with it. And I don't know. I whether it went well or not, I don't know. But it was what it is. So are you somebody who... So the song we were talking about, Auld Lang Syne, Old Long Since, Time Twist. Are you a reminiscer? Are you a person who likes keepsakes and stuff from the past? And are you more of just like, the past is past and moving on? Like, where are you at more naturally on that?
I am definitely a memento from the past.
Do you have like stuff in your house that reminds you of the past and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, even just most of my decor, like, I like things to have a story. So I love old photos. I have a bunch of, boxes of my childhood in the basement. I like remembering.
Do you go back and look through it regularly, or you just know it's there?
Not regularly. I think my mom's giving me a box every time I go over to the house, so I think they're a little bit fresher now.
She's trying to get it out of her house.
Get your
this was cute when you were 7. I don't want it anymore.
Yes, get your 7 boxes of drawings out of the house. So I also I don't have the best memory. Like I have a really hard time putting my memories in order. So for me, like mementos and like physical things really do just help me go back to parts in my life, which helps me because I'm a very like I live very anxiously in the future person. So it kind of helps me go back to just either.
There's some actual scientific evidence that suggests that's the root of hoarding.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not being sarcastic here. That people who have the actual psychological disorder of hoarding have something inside of their brain functioning whereby they don't hold on to memories as well, so they attach the memories to the things. Yeah. And they feel if I throw that newspaper away from 1984, I'll forget my childhood. Yeah. Because they're attaching memories to items. And so it's not that they're just, I like stuff. It's no, this is my memory. So I don't know, it's interesting. Like people that want mementos more, sometimes it is their brain's way of holding on to a memory.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, I love, just old stuff in general. I mean, I've always been really fascinated by like historical objects. Like I loved museums as a child. I've been getting into like, this is an ancient Roman coin. Like old stuff just reminds me that the world has a larger story. So I don't know. I love objects and things, though. I just think that they carry stories, and stories are just glimpses into people that aren't me that, I don't know. I like getting outside of myself because I need to. Objects help me with that, I guess.
That can be hard, I imagine. You and I definitely part ways there. I don't have a sentimental bone in my body. I throw everything away. I don't want to keep anything. I found an old portable throwaway camera. The kind you used to get where you'd like take like 20 pictures, just develop the camera, from a missions trip I led to China. Sitting in a box. I didn't even develop it.
Oh my gosh, you threw it away?
No, it's still there. I don't know. I literally, my wife was like, "You're going to develop it?" I'm like, I don't care. I don't take pictures. I don't keep stuff. I do have a box of some stuff from being a kid, I guess, but I don't attach memory to things at all.
That makes sense though, because I never thought about the memory attachment thing. For me, it very much so is. I need something to take me back to a memory because I don't store it chronologically like that. So if you're like, I got it, I remember being there, I don't need to, have something cluttering the house. Totally makes sense. So that's interesting.
I do remember though, and this is, it's a side note, but when I first went to college, I met a group of people. One of them eventually became my brother-in-law. So his name was Brandon. We've talked about him before, but Brandon actually is kind of confusing, but he went to college with his brother, and like 3 other people from his hometown all went to the state school, which we were like a half a mile from. So like it was weird because I met them and they were like this group of like 5 friends who grew up together, like 3 of them like really close. And every time we would hang out, I remember like so vividly, like sitting in like a dorm room and these guys all like telling high school stories and me not knowing any of them and being like, can I leave? But also feeling I'm not wired this way. I really am not. And even now, I'm 47. I don't ever like sit around and want to talk about high school or when I was but other people I see do. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just we're wired differently. So when I even, the reason I'm saying this is if you missed the message, I talked about the song, how it's really a reminiscent poem about remembering the good old days and how, people getting together. Oh, remember when this? I don't really live that way. I don't, my brain just kind of is like, I'm ready to move on, something new. And I think sometimes I almost need to tell myself, no, Pete, hey, and so I did say in my message, like, I started journaling as a habit, not because it was like this natural thing for me. It's not at all. I just want to move on. But no, there's actually something valuable about pausing sometimes and looking back and like, oh, hey, and I'm so glad now that I do because just even as I shared from the stage yesterday, like stuff I wrote a year ago was just so encouraging to me this week. Yeah. So there is value in looking back. It's not, I don't know. I don't naturally do it, but I will say this, and I'm curious what, like, given that you're that way, is the flip side true? Is change harder for you? Or you're like, no, you're fine with, change is a little struggle more?
Change is really hard for me.
Okay.
I think the idea of change really excites me, but I find a lot of safety in routine and pattern. And
it works too.
Yeah, I know it works. I'm very analytical. So like, kind of like we're talking about, like we like to pick things apart, right? Can't really do that too much with the future in any real way.
Yeah.
So I sometimes have a hard time even just figuring out where to start. But yeah, change is very difficult for me.
That's cool. It's interesting even having this conversation. We weren't planning on talking about this, but it does make sense when you see it. Because again, like I will break things just to bring about change. If things don't change, I get so antsy and bored. I used to rearrange my house like at least 3 times a year.
I share the boredom aspect, that's where it conflicts.
I love change. I love new things. I love trying new I don't love trying new food, but I love when the status quo gets shifted and something new happens. That's like, oh yeah, let's go. Which ironically, maybe that's probably the wrong word, but I sort of sense that in Thane a little bit. Like hey, let's do this, let's go. And so has that been, and we're not marriage therapy here, but like married to someone who is kind of on the other end of that. Have you guys had to navigate like, keeping the past versus changing, and he's kind of a go guy? Has that been a journey for you guys, or has it been kind of easy?
Our dynamic in that way is really interesting because I'm the one that brings up most of the change conversations of like, where are we going? What are we doing? Mostly so that I can analyze it, right? And get prepared for it. Whereas when he makes a change, I mean, he can do it in the moment, and it's easy for him. He's very adaptable. It takes, like, I love the idea of change, but like the actual function of it is really hard for me. Like I just struggle with it. Very clunky in my mind. But for him, he doesn't desire change as much. Like he's just comfortable with it. Yeah, he doesn't get bored like I get very bored, like you, really fast with things. But the process of change is hard for me, so I end up, we kind of even out. If you were to just watch us, we probably just look like it works for us. Yeah. So no, that makes sense. I don't know. It's interesting.
Cool. So, not to like shift gears, it's all still kind of this conversation, but before we jumped on here, you were talking a little bit about the conversation that you had regarding the relationship between this idea of hope, expectations, and the word faith. Like, what were you, just kind of like, we were talking about, hold on, let's say it for the camera. Yeah. Like, where were you going with that? Like, just kind of bring it back to service.
Yeah. Well, just talking with my parents even about like, okay, what is the difference between faith, hope? And like you said, our terms are so important because I think for a lot of people, it's like, well, they're kind of synonyms, right? I have faith that God can do X. I hope that God can do X. If I have enough hope in God, he'll do this. When in reality, like you kind of broke it down even culturally, like people reading this would say that hope is this, like it's not this.
I'm expecting it to happen.
It's not this feeling. Yeah. Hope is something that is there regardless, which I believe regardless of if you feel it or not, we have hope in Christ. Whether you're feeling that hope, it's been done, it's established.
That'd be a challenge because I even, now we're really breaking things down.
Yeah.
I would say that the word hope doesn't live in the category of emotion. It lives in the category of thought. Happiness is a word that probably straddles thought and emotion a lot more. Joy is more emotion. Hope isn't a feeling. It's a thing in your brain that says, no, I think this is going to happen. You would, if you're attaching verbs to it, I don't want to get all Greek on this, but you're using words like think, expect, believe. You're using words like feel or sense. There are emotions that we often talk about in the Bible. Again, joy for being one of them. That you'd say, no, I feel joy. There's an elation. Hope is, no, my brain thinks this is going to happen. So even that, like to say like, well, it's not about whether you feel it 100%. It's whether you think it. If you don't think something is going to go well, you don't have hope, right? Like hope is absent when your brain thinks everything's going to go bad. Hope is your brain telling itself, I think this is going to go well for me or well for the world or whatever. So the question then is, what makes your brain think something's going to go well? Like, where does that come from? And then again, now we're back to, well, are you just naturally an optimist? Well, no. What separates optimists and pessimists is often them paying attention to things that can go wrong. Because hope is whether your brain thinks something will go well. And if all I see are problems, I'm not going to have hope, right? If I don't see any, this is not going to go well. Look at all these things. Like, no. Versus, no, look, this, oh man, this is going to be great. Let's go. Hope. So as a Christian, I'm asking the question, does my brain have a reason to think things are going to go well? And that's, I think, then your connection to faith, right? Yeah.
Like, I mean, I mainly use hope as a noun.
Sure.
And less so as a verb. I think just the existence of that. That's when I say like it's, to me, just completely disconnected from feelings because it is a thing. It's a work that has been done. It is attached to specific promises, right? Because if hope is just attached to my brain and what I'm willing to happen, which is I think how we use hope wrongly a lot of time, like if I just hope, if it's me just wanting something specific, then that puts me in the driver's seat of this situation, and it's just hold on until, you hit something or, the wheels fall off of your own theology when, in reality, like when hope is really that noun and it's based on, like we talked about, the promises of God. I don't have hope outside of a promise that the Lord has given me. I can believe that he can do something because he can choose to move and, that's where we can get, miracles, right? He can intercept in the natural and, do something on this side of heaven. But like, what are his actual promises to us that we can put our hope in? Yeah,
no, that's an important distinction. I think there are a lot of Christian streams that have struggled with that. I've shared before on this podcast, what we call like the word of faith movement is built kind of on the idea that if I can conjure up faith, which misunderstands the word, I can get God to do something for me that I want him to do. Versus what I think the scriptures say is faith is trusting God will do what he said he is going to do. Meaning it started with him and I'm just trusting him. It doesn't start with me trying to get if I just make myself believe he'll do it.
Yeah.
No. He said he's going to do it, and I'm just going to live my life believing that he's actually going to do what he said he would do. That's walking by faith. But yeah, to have hope is like, and it's even interesting because you can trust God in a way that it doesn't lead to hope. And this would be funny, but like not funny at all, but you could trust that God is going to judge wickedness and be like, well, I'm going to choose to be wicked. So I actually don't have hope. I'm pretty sure he's going to judge me. Like you see, like you can actually have faith in God in a way that does, because hope is good things. Like as opposed to, I trust that God said he would forgive me because I've chosen to follow Jesus and seek him. Now I have hope that he's going to do that. And really, this is super like theological, but this really fascinating, difficult word that we translate sometimes as righteous and sometimes as just, diakosune, like is a present and future thing at the same time. Because the word can be used almost to speak of a verdict or a decision that you are like not guilty or that you're proven right. And there's this sense in the scriptures that you've been called diakosune, you've been called righteous or in the right now, but it actually hasn't happened yet. And that's sort of Paul's mentality of like, actually, I'm living my life knowing that one day I'm going to stand before the judge and the verdict is going to go my way. I have hope that that's going to happen, but it's not a wish. No, I actually, because of the resurrection, what Jesus said, I'm living my life completely convinced that's going to happen to me one day. That's faith in action leading towards hope. I will be declared, he's called me righteous now, meaning, hey, when all is said and done, you're going to be in the right. You're going to be standing at the right place at the right time with the right person, and your future is going to go well for you. Okay, cool, let's go. I'm holding on to that living hope because of the resurrection. So, there is a very future element to it. But there's also a now element to it. And I was reading, I shared with you guys, like, probably where I'm going this Sunday a little bit, this great section of Romans where Paul is talking about how we were slaves to sin. Should we keep on sinning? Well, no, by no means, we're called something new. You're now a slave of righteousness. And it's all this very like heady kind of stuff. And then right there, is it chapter 7, he makes these statements that are so powerful. He asks this rhetorical question. He says, what benefit have you reaped? Like what good thing do you now have in your hand, having been a slave to sin? And his answer is death and destruction, nothing. Yeah. What benefit are you going to reap seeking holiness? Oh, that actually leads to life. Well, even that is kind of a hope situation. When you and I choose to, let's call it a moral action, but essentially do something the way that God wants me to do it rather than the way that I want to do it, you're living by hope. You're exercising hope because your expectation in your head is if I do it God's way, it will go well for me. So every time I say, okay, God, you tell me what to do, faith and hope are both operating at the same time. I trust faith that what he tells me to do is going to bring about a good thing. I expect it to be true because he tells me the truth. So I am now going to do it. Even though I haven't seen the goodness yet, I trust that his way is going to lead to life, whereas that way just leads to death. And so that's why throughout the scriptures, faith and hope are constantly, they're not the same word. They're not synonyms. They work together. They're hand in hand in how we live our lives. Which is why the distinction, I think, of faith is so important as well, because faith in any direction, like faith only works, right, when it's attached to a hope that is real, right? Because I would say like faith is like the verb behind the hope. It's the allegiance. It's what leads to it. Yeah. It's a vector. It's an arrow towards the hope. Well, if you don't have faith, you're not going to do it. If I don't think if I don't think your directions are going to get me where I want to go, I'm not going to follow your directions. Yeah. If I think you know what you're talking about and I follow your directions, that's literally what the word faith means. So when God says, do this, it's better for you. And I say, does he know what he's talking about? Yeah. I think he does. I'm going to do that. That's faith. It's trust. The word faith means trust in Greek. So I'm saying like, oh, okay, well, you know what you're talking about. Kind of my weatherman example. Like, does this weatherman actually know it's not going to rain? I actually think Siri knows exactly it's not going to rain, so I'm going to go get a raincoat or whatever. Do I trust God when he tells me to do something? And do I trust that he's actually good and therefore his way will lead to good things? Hope. Yeah. I expect good. So yeah, they're constantly working hand in hand. It's like you don't separate them, they work together. If there was no hope, who cares if you have faith? If God wasn't leading me to good things, I could trust God. This is like super philosophical. If God were evil, I could trust him. I could have faith. And my faith could be, this guy wants to kill me. Yeah. And I could be like, I trust that you're going to kill me. I'm not going to do what you said. Hope is the combination of, I trust you, but I also trust that you're leading me to good things because you're a good father. Yeah. You're not an angry deity who just wants to destroy me. So that's even why Paul will then bring in the third word, love, faith, hope, and love, working together. Like God is for me. He loves me. So I trust him to lead me to good things, hope. But yeah, I like words. I thought about doing a whole series once, just like picking words in the Bible that are often, maybe I'll do that.
Well, it's so important. I mean, the source of our hope, I mean, that can really affect our view of the character of God. It can make God very confusing if our hope is somewhere off here and, it's not backed by a promise of God, like then God's character turns from, okay, this is somebody that tells me if I have faith and hope enough that, this will happen. Okay. If the this is not rooted in a promise of God and, our misplaced hope and faith gets us not where we wanted to go, then our version of God is now, on the worst end of the scale, a liar, and on the scary end of the scale, he doesn't hear us or doesn't care and leaves us alone. Right?
Have you ever heard the comedian Pete Holmes? Do you know who he is?
Is that you by another name or?
No, he's actually really funny. So Pete Holmes is, I'm not telling you to listen to Pete Holmes, but he's pretty funny. So Pete Holmes grew up hardcore evangelical Christian. And he actually had his own HBO sitcom for a while, like about his life. And essentially, I've heard him tell this story. It's very interesting. He'll debate Christians and stuff. I don't know what he is now. He's not a Christian. But he literally, I heard him say on camera, my journey away from God started when my wife cheated on me. Because I was told as a kid that if I followed all the rules, I waited to have sex till I was married, I did all the right things, that my marriage would be perfect. And when she walked out on me, I'm like, well, God's a liar. So why am I serving this God? Yeah. And it sent him completely away from God. Yep. Like this expectation in his head, hope, was not fulfilled. And that then unravels faith, which is supposed to lead to hope. The problem was, he never should have had what he would have called hope. He could have had, I think you can have an expectation level, but that was a misplaced hope of like what God has or hasn't promised. But yeah, that's I don't know. That's deep stuff. This has been fun. We had no idea what we were going to talk about 35 minutes ago. Yeah. Yeah. That's the beauty of a podcast. Like, there's always something. This is good. Any last parting words, important things?
I think so. To come back to wrap it up with like the pessimism and the optimism place, right? So for those of us that have the analytical brain, I think sometimes the optimist maybe has an easier time accepting mystery. And so I'm wondering if. I'm trying to think of how to word it. I think when we have our hope right-sized, because I think the pessimist, we like to know where we're going. We like to analyze the pieces. I think sometimes we can be a little bit more on the anxious side, if I'm reading us right. Sure. But I think that right-sized hope allows us to kind of embrace the mystery of the journey, which I think is required in a present, loving life. I don't know if that
Yeah, I agree.
makes sense. I've been reading Orthodoxy, G.K. Chesterton.
Going deep.
And he, one thing that really spoke to me about it, and I'm tying this together, but he said that the one thing that we can't look at is the thing that we see everything by, right? The sun. It's blurry, it's bright, it's chemical reactions, it's we can't study it, with our eyes, but we see everything by it. So I would use that. The sun in this example would be the hope, right? Like, it is real. It is there. It is not something that we can necessarily trace the edges of with our pessimism, right? But it's the realest thing. And then he said that the mother of the lunatics, right, is the moon. And if you look at the sun and the moon together up there, they're both emitting light. But what's the one that you can study, trace the edges of, stare at for as long as you want? It's the one that's not emitting the truth.
It's reflecting it.
It's reflecting it. And that really made me think, because, I sometimes find my peace in the things that I can just circle and, measure and pick apart and feel safe with, when sometimes the truest parts of our hope, God makes us live in the mystery of things. And sometimes that the deepest truth is going to be something that we can't completely look at, mess with, pick apart. Maybe he won't tell you the complete and total outcome of something, right? But he does give us a way to live. He does give us principles to live by, and he does give us end goal and what we have to hope for. And there are specific promises in Scripture, and that sometimes has to be enough, Yeah. And there will be mystery in the midst. So I think for the pessimist mind, like, that can be hard for me, to allow the mystery to be just as much of the process in my hope and in my faith. Well, God, I don't want to choose that because you're not giving me enough information, and he doesn't, Yeah. So, and maybe the optimist is like, the mystery is whatever, but for the anxious mind, the mystery is scary. And he makes the next step sometimes only one stepping stone at a time, but that doesn't mean that the mystery doesn't contain him in that process of hope.
Sure. That's good.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. That's good. Deep
That's
stuff.
my final thought.
That's good. Well, these were Deep Thoughts with Pete and Sarah.
Deep thoughts.
Deep thoughts. Hey, thanks for joining us. We're going to, over the next few weeks, we're going to be diving into just some vision, mission stuff about Woodland Church. It's going to be kind of fun, but it won't just be, we'll talk about why and some of that good stuff. And then in a few weeks, we're going to start the book of Matthew, which will be fun. I think it'll maybe even affect the podcast a little bit, because a lot of the last couple of months have been sort of like random topics. Starting in February, it'll be like, hey, we're walking the book of Matthew. And so one of the things I want to do is really encourage people, even as we're like, hey, this first week we're in Matthew 1. Got any questions about Matthew 1? Shoot a podcast. And so anything we don't cover from Matthew, I'd love. So start listening for that. And man, don't forget, where your questions are always welcome here on the podcast.
Yeah.
So they're good.
Start reading Matthew now.
Yeah. But until then, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the In the Woods podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye.